28 August 2023, 6 o'clock 10 minutes, very beginning of the night, Rio de Janeiro City, Brazil. On the interference, as usual, we could observe at first and before we continue the review that if I have kind of a trust scam, this trust scam go by interaction of areas public and corporate. It means that you have inside the criminal use, which implies criminals, inside the regular area shouldn't has the criminality as purpose or will be a criminal organization, and I state the same thing. We will observe that the coalition and compadrios are observed since the 90s. Indeed, will put the public area and the corruption equally affecting the corporations. If you can misuse all offers at the market, and it doesn't matter which are those offers as items or services, the provider or the suppliers will be affected, and sometimes they are not part of the problem. It's observed by the pattern as fake record and deep web scam, because Brazil has a judicial system basically totally comfortable with fake records. You have an industry of stamp with public stamps offered by payment, and you can invent a person, a company, set offshore with no problems at all, and in the end the state power will be reduced to allow the conformance as illegal things. We observe that I have my process, can be my phone call. In general, it's a circuit with the input as request I do and the output as the stimulus or signal I receive. And if I have my process, that can be anything, and I have some kind of interference before the output, having a buffering or something, I will repeat this process, but as a permutation on it, which only will happen if the interference action has at least a general notion of my pattern as transference or stimulation. I will repeat the process with the interference. In general, the stealers. It's that idea. If I have my regular flow, have the interruption as cut the light or something, set an interface here, and having the recovery point as object at this moment here, but now with the interface, have the collective data during this period, have a not interval here, and things will back, but I could collect this period. Can be 24 hours, can be anything at your postal system. This is how this deep web impacts our life, collecting things, codes, changing the perception about what you are and things we do, stealing the asset we are creating even before we present. For instance, if I have the talk, I'd like to buy 2 companies, considering the expectation, and I will set the prospection, and you got this before I launch this idea. It's something quite serious, maybe, especially if you talk about global business and major interest at security. Patterns we observed since 1920 up to The ninth, the construction as embedded system communication. Total architecture that allow you transfer messages by many things, with interaction, with programs, with sometimes the combination between analogical things as punching a picture and upload with the message transfer. 100 years of program science, we have paradigms and multi-paradigms. They are procedural, structured, and oriented, or with non-structure as fluid. Attribute to do things you need. Setting the pattern as conglomerate of data, and the kind of reading you will have, and the reading can be something structured, kind of very precise, or non-structured that allow you sometimes do the approach, and we had many models considering the sum as Bayesian approach, by stochastic analytics, Bayesian approach as model. We use this idea, database sigma and database sigma with the approach. The approach is part of the information, is also used at the US judicial system, I think on Europe, and helps at the inference and the inductive and the deductive prescription or cognition you do about facts and circumstances. If a system has the fake records at the public departments and criminal record as subsidiary area, all other areas are probably able to be noticed as under this kind of domain or influence fake data. Then you will observe and confirm by the economic records as records about the entire conjuncture, which is a fraud, affecting the instructions you do by the syntax until lexical reading you can make, and have reduced or complex program stimulations to execute things. The lambda, which implies the stochastic process, observing the compilation of mistakes you do, will have the big data as something totally outlined, and your make decision procedure will probably do not have the efficiency required. And if you have this as an excuse to have extra costs by the investment system you use as public, you will need more taxation. As corporation, you will require more investment. Then by this you can observe that system with a huge tax need or a huge investment need are probably ruled by fraudulent scams. They had been used as interface to steal money and wheeling around in general, leading to give and take scams observed currently. The pattern of we had, chart number 3, is nowadays the reduced instruction, the complex instruction, and both set the instruction set as the architecture, which can be ruled by paradigm and multi-paradigm, and sometimes with the interaction level. The interaction level and goes inside the multi-paradigm, which implies the variance as possibility, with limits as test of hypotheses and allowing the prediction sometimes and the forecast, or even you do this with the storms, with the hurricanes, and with the financial models and the economy and trends at the market as consumer, and a lot of things. Will be observed that this kind of thing leads to something named SAGE, which is semi-automatic ground environment, was used at the supply chain as an automatic workflow and logistic during the Second Great War. It's based on data as a stochastic process with the application and sometimes the approach to achieve goals, and the most serious decision as defense, with not proper information at the criminal record affecting the security. Impacting the security for will affect the United States security and also the NATO and Portugal, the entire Europe, and the NATO has the legitimacy to do this interference and present all those arguments requesting the conviction of all states supporting this or backgrounding this kind of activity that is very analogical as observed to cover criminals inside institutions by misuse of power with these fake data schemes, confirming criminal results and other things by the stamp, which reduce the state power as they use to serve the conformance for criminal organization at the institutional and state power, how they got there, why they remains, because they didn't have the dismiss list offer, the security forum must offer this and push this by the request for instance as NATO third interest affected, and have the dismissal order as dismantled by the procedure we offer to ensure this. The SAGE, a semi-automatic ground environment, it's a workstation with a semi-automatic workflow. This has a more complex architecture as a workstation, which is the PRISM, which implies parallel reduced instruction set machine. Inside this environment, you almost will have a total automatic workflow. It's observed at the vehicles, at the Volkswagen or whatever, when you don't need human resources in many things, or at the laundry machine nowadays that you don't need human resource to have the laundry of your clothes, for instance. And this is the idea as instruction set architecture, at this case generally reduced risk, because it's something automatic and you can use the complex as SIS, but you will need, for instance, the IoT to identify and have, which is the concept as VAX, virtual address extension, and allow the machine, now I talk about machine learning properly, have the reading as environment to achieve the object that the command sets the orientation. But of course, if you do the misuse of things, including the Google account, the IoT will be something very dangerous, do not allow the accuracy you need, and by this we requested to open directly at the US Defense to research the Googles and how the IoT had been misused by criminal use, especially by intelligence stolen at departments and states having the criminal use of power. We are requesting one more time the conviction of them all, not only at the International Criminal Court, with regressions until the checks by this paycheck, which has, I would say, a price as 38 trillion, as the cost you did, harassment and no interest on it, inside the private living, including the economic espionage, as the other estimated 10 billion cases. And this is not a financial penalty or a penalty, it's just the compensation as my right and guarantee, flowing naturally by constitutional guarantees not only Brazil against the organized criminal institution and states. All must be supporting this because the criminal activity and the corruption affects we all, and there are no legal system or system around the globe that has the corruption as a standardized pattern. It's always an outline, has no guarantee as outlaw. We observe that this kind of thing, as the prisms, parallel reduced destruction in a semi-automatic ground environment with use as military since the Second Great War, create an industry. And the industry is about conduction, semiconductor, connective and semi-connective to interconnective, which are different things. And the approach go inside this kind of architecture. Some global companies that in the past are, having the big iron as production very strong, became a data company, and the data management is something that imposed to this company have this kind of concern. If has, for instance, the misusage of an asset like the Kubernetes, which is part of this, you probably will affect not only interests at this company, but all stakeholders, including the consumers, not victimized, and that the model will observe the interference, we will complain against the company, but the company must offer the offenders that in general are public departments or whatever. The virtual address extension is something quite simple to understand, and that it's 15 minutes. We will finish the conversation here. If it's necessary, move later. It's like this. I have this model here. I will have my reduced space as interval, and sometimes I have to achieve a goal here with this area here as prediction. I will have interval empty here with the approach as something that I will consider, you know, to from this point get here at least with the more accuracy need. It was what we used at this trial all the time to satisfy the need, reducing the possibility of fail by the accuracy and regressive model until the institutions in check. They are criminals inside the institution, but since we did the regression, we could understand that the institution are criminals organization by the values inside, and the architecture carrying this kind of execution as order, not helps that the abusive process. Have a great week. I bet that Brazil is having beers, are having a great time, and I will do the contribution to put things as the most great time ever, especially with 3 boats program. First one, transnational organized crime budget. Second, G20 against this effort, hard interest with no excuse to be made. Third one, the international corruption and procedures we are having. Have a great day.